She's already promised herself it was the last time. Told her friends she was certain that this time was different, that she wouldn't go back. She blocked his number, deleted the photos, swore she'd learned her lesson. But 3 weeks later, he sends a message, and she feels that tightness in her chest, that warmth she hates admitting she still feels. And even knowing everything she knows, even remembering every tear, every broken promise, every sleepless night, she goes back. And as she returns, a voice inside her screams, "Why am I like this? Why can't I just move on?" This is the silent pain of women trapped in the cycle of return. And today we're unraveling the brutal psychology behind this pattern. Because it's not weakness, it's not lack of self-love, and it's definitely not stupidity. It's something much deeper, more complex, and more human than one might imagine. And without understanding the psychological mechanisms that trap someone in this loop, she'll keep blaming herself for something that actually has roots she didn't even know existed. Let's start by dismantling the lie she tells herself. She doesn't go back because she's weak. She goes back because her brain has been neurologically hijacked. And this has a name in psychology: trauma bonding. When a relationship alternates between intense pain and intense pleasure, between rejection and reconnection, between ending and beginning again, something chemical happens in the brain. Every time he hurts her and then comes back apologizing, crying, promising change, her brain releases an explosion of dopamine and oxytocin. It's the same neurological circuit that creates drug addiction. She's not addicted to him. She's addicted to the cycle, to the emotional roller coaster, to pain followed by temporary relief, to death followed by resurrection. And the more this cycle repeats, the more deeply it roots itself in her brain chemistry, until going back no longer feels like a choice. It feels inevitable, feels like fate. But it's not fate, it's conditioning, and it needs to be named for what it really is: an emotional survival pattern disguised as love. Now the question arises, why does she specifically do this? Why can her friends break up and move on, but she can't? Because almost always this pattern didn't start with him. It started much earlier. If she grew up in an environment where love was inconsistent, where one day she was hugged and the next she was ignored, where affection was given and withdrawn without warning, where she never knew if she'd be welcomed or rejected, her brain learned something dangerous. Love is unpredictable, and she needs to fight for it. So when she meets a man who replicates this pattern, who loves her intensely and then disappears, who promises her the world and then vanishes, who makes her feel special and then treats her like an option, something inside her doesn't recognize this as a red flag. It recognizes it as familiar. Her unconscious whispers, "I know how to handle this. I know this. If I can make this man stay, I'll finally prove I'm worthy of stable love." But the devastating truth is this: she's not trying to make him stay. She's trying to rewrite her childhood story. And until she realizes this, she'll keep going back. Not to him, but to the chance of finally fixing that first wound. As this pattern repeats, the symptoms become more complex and more invisible. She develops what psychologists call selective traumatic amnesia. Her mind literally blocks out the bad memories and amplifies the good ones. 3 weeks after the breakup, she doesn't remember how he humiliated her in front of friends. She remembers his smile on the first date. She doesn't remember the nights crying alone. She remembers that time he showed up with flowers. She starts negotiating with reality. But this time he really seems different. He's in therapy now. He said he finally understands. And she clings to any crumb of change as if it were evidence of real transformation. She develops magical thinking. If I just give one more chance, if I'm just more patient, if I love him the right way, as if the problem were the way she loves, and not his inability to love her back in a healthy way. And most dangerous of all, she starts confusing intensity with intimacy. She believes that because it hurts so much, because she feels so much, because they have something special, it must be true love. But true love doesn't leave someone constantly in emotional survival mode. True love doesn't make someone question their worth every week. True love doesn't end and restart 6 times in the same year. And she confuses cycles of separation and reconciliation with deep passion. This is the psychology of a woman trapped in the cycle of return. It's not just a matter of valuing herself more. It's a tangle of trauma, brain chemistry, and attachment patterns that were formed when she was too young to understand what was happening. So what happens to this woman when she keeps going back? She becomes the adult who doesn't trust her own intuition. Because every time her instinct screams leave, her mind says, but what if? She becomes the woman who has more compassion for him than for herself, who can understand his wounds, forgive his mistakes, but violently blames herself for every time she fails to make the relationship work. She becomes the type of woman who apologizes for reacting to how she was treated, minimizes her own pain so she doesn't seem dramatic, hides the fact that she went back because she feels shame, says I'm fine when she's completely shattered inside. She inherits a life where she's always waiting for him to change, waiting for him to see her value, waiting for his love to finally become the love she always wanted but never received. But here's the truth nobody wants to say. He's not going to change. Not the way she needs, not in the time she hopes, and probably not going to change at all. Because the problem isn't that she didn't love enough. The problem is that she loved someone who doesn't have the emotional capacity to love her back. And she can go back 1,000 times, can give 1,000 chances, can be more patient, more understanding, more everything. And still, it won't be enough, because the problem was never her. Now let's examine what really happens behind the scenes of each return. Phase 1, the breakup. First, she feels relief. It's finally over. I'm free. She even feels strong. Her friends support her. She breathes deeply and thinks, this time is different. Phase 2, emotional withdrawal. 3 days later, it starts. These aren't rational thoughts. It's a physical need. She misses his smell, his voice. She checks his social media obsessively, wants to know if he's suffering too, or worse, if he's already moved on. Phase 3, the justification. Her mind starts doing mental gymnastics. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe he really was trying. Maybe I didn't give him enough space to grow. She rewrites the story in a way that allows her to go back without admitting she's going back. Phase 4, the contact. He texts, or she texts. Doesn't matter who started. What matters is the cycle has restarted. And in the first hours, even days, everything seems magical again. He's attentive. She's hopeful. And both act like this time is really different. Phase 5, the honeymoon of return. For a while it's good, even better than before. He's making an effort. She's grateful. They both avoid the difficult topics. And she thinks, see, I knew it was worth it. Phase 6, the return of patterns. Then, slowly, the same behaviors come back. The emotional distance, the broken promises, the same triggers. And she realizes, with growing horror, that nothing has really changed. But now she's invested again. An ending means admitting she was wrong once more. And the cycle repeats. Again, and again, and again. One of the most powerful realizations she can have now is to stop asking, why do I keep going back? And start asking, what am I avoiding feeling by going back? Because going back isn't just about him. It's about her avoiding something. Maybe it's the grief of accepting this love will never be what she dreamed. The fear of being alone and having to face herself. The shame of admitting she wasted so much time. The emptiness of not knowing who she is without this drama. The terror of starting over with someone else. And until she faces what's really holding her, she'll keep using him as a distraction from her own unprocessed pain. This is how she stops going back. Not by promising to never speak to him again, but by facing what she's running from inside herself. This is how she breaks the cycle. Not by blocking the number, but by healing the wound that makes her need him in the first place. This is how she finally moves on. Not by finding someone better, but by becoming someone who no longer accepts crumbs. But healing isn't linear, and she needs to understand this. She may still feel the urge to go back, and that's natural. What changes isn't the feeling, it's what she does with it. Before, she felt the urge and went back automatically. Now she'll feel the urge and do something different. She'll sit with the discomfort instead of acting impulsively. She'll call a friend instead of texting him. She'll write everything she feels in a journal instead of unblocking the number. She'll cry, scream, feel everything, but she won't go back. And each time she does this, she breaks a little more of the neural conditioning. She creates a new pathway in her brain, a pathway that doesn't lead back to him, but back to herself. So if there's a woman listening who keeps going back to the same man, certain truths need to be acknowledged. She's not weak. She's trapped in a survival mechanism her brain created to protect her. She's not stupid. She's trying to heal something that can't be healed by going back to the person who hurt her. She's not alone. Millions of intelligent, strong, incredible women are trapped in the same cycle. And this doesn't diminish their worth. It just shows the power of trauma. But this must also be understood. There comes a moment when a choice must be made, either keep going back or start living. Because while stuck in this cycle, a part of her remains frozen in time. She doesn't grow, doesn't move forward, doesn't become who she could be. She stays trapped in an infinite loop of pain and false hope. And the years pass, and she looks back and realizes she gave the best part of herself to someone who never deserved even the worst. But there's hope, and hope isn't in him changing. Hope is in her awakening. And awakening means recognizing the pattern without self-blame, understanding the origin without using it as an excuse, feeling everything without acting impulsively, asking for help when the urge to go back is too strong, starting to build a life so good that going back stops being an option. Not because she doesn't feel anything anymore, but because she finally loves herself more than she loves his illusion. And no, it won't be fast. It won't be easy. There will be relapses. There will be moments of weakness. There will be nights when she'll hold her phone and almost send that message. But this time she won't. Not because she became a different person overnight, but because she finally understood. She wasn't going back to him. She was running from herself. And now that she knows this, the journey can finally begin. The journey back home. And home isn't him. Home is her. She deserved someone who stayed without her having to beg. She deserved love that didn't need to be fixed every month. She deserved a man who didn't make her question her own worth. And maybe she didn't have that in the past. But she still has a future. And this time she can choose differently. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Not to prove anything to anyone. But out of pure self-love. The kind of love that says, I deserve peace. I deserve stability. I deserve someone who stays. And if there's someone listening now feeling a tightness in their chest, it's because a part of them knows it's true. She doesn't need to go back one more time to be sure. She already knows. And now, finally, she can leave. For real. And never look back again.